Hello, welcome to the lesson sharing again. So today we're going to share one question on map skill topic. I particularly choose this chapter because there are quite a lot of students who feel that the map skill is a chapter that they couldn't really understand, which is even if you put the examination aside, it's still a very relevant topic because we need to look at the map, right? I mean, of course, nowadays with the Google Maps and Yahoo Maps and all that, we don't really need to go into detail about the measurements wise, right? We just need to know where to go, right? But then if you go into next time in the future, if you want to go for jobs that's related to planning of the estate, for example, planning about land, if you're an architect and all that, so you got to know this topic very well. Okay, so let's go to the first question here, where they show you an example of a real map, and then they give you a scale that is from 4 cm. So the first number that you must be aware is usually the map number, and on the right side is always the actual. So they always put a map number first before they put the actual distance on the ground. Okay, take note of that. And in the first question, they want us to convert this into a map scale of 1 to something in the form of 1 to R. So R is basically the unknown that we want to find out, right? And you have to, first of all, be aware that when you put in the final answer in the ratio, the measurement units will become the exact same, which means that it will no longer be cm to km, but rather cm to cm. So because the measurement units both become centimeters, then as a result of the final answer, you can then remove the common centimeters to just put the numbers will do, right? So let's start with the question. So we're going to follow the current scale that they give us, which means we'll put 4 cm on the left, and on the right side, we put 0.3 km. All right, and the next first thing you want to do is to change them to the same measurement units, right? So km must change into centimeters first. Some of the students might forget the conversion, might forgot about the conversion already. 1 km is a little bit hard to remember the direct conversion to cm. So we normally change it to meters first, right? Which is like 1000 meters. And then for meters, then we change it to cm. So every 1 meter open up should be 100 centimeters, right? Just take note that we are measured in meters. Our height is measured in meters, as in typically everyone is around 1 meter plus tall, right? Unless the giants, the Guinness World Record for the tallest person might be 2 meters plus, so at most it's only 200 plus cm. All right, so for the km, as long as you involve a k, it must be 1000. So if you involve a conversion from km to cm, as you think about it, you always write this basic conversion first and think about the number when you go this way, when you want to change from kilometers to meters, does the number increase or decrease? It gets bigger, right? From number 1 to become 1000, you have to multiply 1000. And then from the meters, you change to centimeters, you multiply another 100. So that means if you want to memorize a direct conversion from kilometers to centimeters, you are basically multiplying by 100 and 1000, which means you multiply by 100, multiply by 1000. So in total, you multiply 100,000, a total of 5 zeros. 3 zeros here, 2 zeros here, total 5 zeros. All right. But if you forget that, you can always go to the basic conversion here and just need to multiply twice. Okay, so in this case, we will multiply directly by 100,000. Immediately, we will change it to cm. So that will be 30,000 cm. All right, so once we get all the measurement units to be cm, then we can remove it. And don't forget that the final answer for the ratio, they want the left-hand side to be 1, which means that I need to reduce 4 down to 1 by dividing the whole set by 4, isn't it? All right, there we go. The final answer after dividing by 4 is 1 to 7,500, and that will be the actual answer without the need to put centimeters, because we know that it's the most simplest form. And we already know that without the units, they will basically be the same measurement units, right? All right, so take note that for most of the map skill question, right, I have come across, I will say almost 99% of the time, the map distance will always stay as centimeters. They seldom you have to change the map into any other number like millimeters or any other thing, because typically we read a map, even if you print out a real paper map, it's going to be like less than the paper size, right? that is measured in centimeters. You get the idea, right? And if you do it in the millimeters, it's too small, and the senior citizens have to use magnifying glass. And if you create a map that is super big, like multiple of meters big, and it's not so user friendly, because you got to bring that big map around, and every time you open, you have to probably hit someone in the face when you stretch out the map or something like that. So that's why the map scale is typically just in centimeters. All right. Right, so in part B here, they give us another map number, all right, the length of the map between these two roads, Prince Road and Crossroads. They tell us is 2.7 cm, and they want us to find the actual distance in meters. So you can, by right, this kind of question, you can actually go and measure, because the instructions at the top says that it's drawn to scale, which means that if you use a ruler to measure between Prince Road and Crossroad, it should already give you 2.7 cm. If it doesn't, you probably have to ask your teacher during the examination, right? Usually they say you can ask question, but you say it's a question fault because it's supposed to be drawn to scale. How come it doesn't measure 2.7? It's either you don't aim maybe the ruler angle you measure in a bit of slanted way, right? That could be one of the reasons. But otherwise, if you measure exactly like the perpendicular distance from Prince Road to Crossroad, it should really measure on the ruler 2.7 cm. All right, and you are going to use the map scale in question A to continue. Some of the students immediately will put in 2.7, and then they will mix it with some of the numbers here. Perhaps they will throw in 7,500, or maybe they will put in 0.3 km for some reason that I don't understand. Like, why do you link to that number? Like, they say that 2.5 cm represents that actual distance on the ground to be that number. The question didn't say so, right? In fact, for the 2.7 cm, you do not know the actual distance on the actual field. Like, that's what you're supposed to find out. So immediately, you shouldn't be trying to put this in the ratio, because how would you know what number to put on the right when that's what you're supposed to find? Instead, you should start off with one of the ratio that is already done just now in part A, right? We know that the final answer is 1 to 7,500, which means that it is going to always follow this ratio, no matter how big or how small. That means every 1 cm you see on the map, on the actual field, is going to be 7,500 cm. Right, and the first thing I want to do is to immediately convert the right-hand side, which is the actual distance, right, into what the question wants. I always want to make sure of that first before I link to this 2.7 cm, because that will immediately help us to get to a nearer to the answer. I like to do that, but some of the students prefer to do it after. That means they find the actual in cm first before they convert to meters. Okay, so it's up to you, but personally, I like to get this done first, once and for all. And that means I want to convert my 7,500 cm into meters by dividing by 100. Right now, when you change to meters, from cm to meters, the number should become smaller. So it should be a division. Yeah? So it's 75 meters on the right hand side. On the left hand side is still 1 centimeters. So then after that, you can then get to the question. You want to change the number from 1 to 2.7 cm, which means that if you treat this as units, like as example, 1 unit is 75 meters. So 2.7 is basically times 2.7. If you want to get the number to be 2.7, 1 just need to multiply back by that number, right? So on the right side, you also use 75 to times 2.7, and that will be the answer in meters already. Yeah. But take note that if you use this units method, like this is considered a bit like units method, right? From 1 unit becomes 2.7 units. Some of the students didn't actually express out their final answer. They just leave it in the form of the ratio. And that's not the final answer, because they want the actual distance only. So pull it out the right side. That means you just write this value on the right side separately, 202.5 meters. All right. All right, so even though this is drawn to scale, but teacher Armando here doesn't have some high-tech ruler for me to measure on the screen. So I'm only just going to teach this question based on an estimate. All right, if you are interested, you can request from us this worksheet. Just let any of the admin know. I'll be very glad and honored to share the question with you. All right, so you can print out and try out yourself, and you can measure out using the actual ruler. So for now, what I'm going to teach you is it's going to be just estimated value. Okay, so let's take it as if like this measurement here, it is 2.5 cm by 2.5 cm. Okay, supposedly if you measure using the ruler. All right, and take note that in this question, they want us to find the area. Okay, and particularly for the area kind of question, there will be quite a lot of students who get lost again. Now, take note that for such question, you need to link to the area. You must use the area scale, right? You must use area scale. So there is no a single number yet right now that represents the area. So do not immediately just try and solve it by using the current numbers here. All right. And also, again, you have to plan for what the question wants in your head, which means immediately you should plan for the kind of measurement units the question is looking for. You know that they are looking for square meters, right? That means square meters is made of something that is in meters and multiply another thing that is in meters, because meters times meters is square meters. Agree? Which means that your length and breadth are supposedly both in meters, isn't it? So I'm going to use the map ratio to begin, and the one that has my actual field representing in meters, which is this second step here in part B, as highlighted in a box, right? Why is that so? Is because it follows, it's going to help me get to the area scale, which has the actual ground in meters straight away. Now, if you remember the conversion, there's a recap here. If you remember the conversion, if you do with meters, square meters, right? A lot of students will think that, oh, because 100 centimeters is 1 meters, so 1 square meters is still going to be 100 square centimeters. They will think like that. Very commonly, they will think like that. But it's wrong. In fact, when you change it into converting in area, because 1 meter square means basically you are comparing like an area of 1 meter square. As in 1 meter times 1 meter, right? The length times square. 1 times 1 is still 1. But if you talk about a 100 cm square, when you do that in centimeters, when you use 100 times 100, it's going to be an answer of 10,000, right? Which means that your 100 also need to put a square. And a lot of students will forget about that. They will not remember to put a square attached to a number. Even after that, let's say I tell you today, and then perhaps next week or 2 weeks later, you sit for an exam, you probably forget about it again. So that is why I say you probably do not want to convert your measurement units when they are inside meters. Then you slowly change from cm square to meter square. Because a lot of times students will make mistakes here, which is why immediately you should plan for the ending by making sure that before you even change to the area scale, your map scale will already be such that the right hand side is in meters, right? The 75 meters. All right, and once you have the correct map scale to be used in the correct kind of measurement units that you need, then you can change to area scale. Remember how to change from map scale to area scale? You have to do a square on each of the number, which means your 1 have to be squared and your 75 also have to be squared. Okay, why is that? The reason why you have to square it is because you are changing a map, which is a 1-dimension number, just a line, right? 1 cm represents on the actual field 75 meters. If you're changing it into area, means you are trying to change one line into area of a square. That is why area of a square is 1 times 1. Area of a 75 meter square is 75 times 75, which is why we need to attach a square to the number. Okay, whenever you change map scale to area scale, please don't forget about the square. So of course, 1 times 1 is still 1, but the 75 is going to be a huge number here. It's going to become 5,625 square meters, right? And then this is the area units that we will try and link to the question. Now, remember on a map here, this 2.5 cm only represents the length. We have to find the area of this whole square. Supposedly, since it says a whole square, so it must be a square shape. You can measure it yourself to make sure it's 90 degrees and all that. But it should be the square because it's 2.5 by 2.5. So the area of the map, the whole square on the map, it is 2.5 multiplied by 2.5, so 2.5 square. 6.25, right? All right, then we're going to use this number to put inside the ratio. So remember to use this area ratio, no longer the map ratio, right? And because this is the map number, you have to put it on the left. So it's the same as you are trying to get from like 1 unit, 1 cm square into 6.25. Everything will times 6.25, right? Including the right side. So 625 times 6.25 is the answer that you are looking for. Which means that on the right side, you're going to get 35156.25 square meters. All right, and of course, because we want the final answer to be not in the form of a ratio, so you can put an equal sign here, represent that with the final answer. All right, are you looking forward to the next one? See you on the next sharing. Ciao.